Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to today's edition of the afternoon edition. My name is Isa. Today, we shall be focusing still on the ever celebrating the Youth Day. That's the International Youth Day, which so many Nigerians and so many civil society organizations were able to partake and make their voice heard during these days. And the issue of youth cannot be overemphasized. They play a critical role in development of any nation. And if you even want your country to move forward, you need to get that massive youth population. But then, to discuss this with me today will be one of our elite youth. I call her elite youth because for those who have passed through Yali, definitely they have a place in the society because of their experience, the activities they partook in, and also how they can also use their wealth of knowledge to shape the society. And that's nobody but Oluwadashola Adelego, Program Director of Yali RLC. And we shall be focusing still on so many critical issues. And also we have one of their members who is, I think, the Deputy Director of RLC, in person of Mr. Uswokem, if I can get that name right. I don't know if I pronounce that right, but definitely I'll get that before he comes joining us online. So we are going to focus so much on the role the youths are playing in the society and how can we tap into the potential of the youth during this International Youth Day. And that's the more reason why we have a youth activist joining us in the studio this afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Oluwadashola Adelego. Okay, Mrs. Oluwadashola Adelego. It's a very, for me, it's a very strange name. I've not seen it this long. Growing up in Lagos, I know, yes, we have so many, but now in Abuja, having that, how can you shorten it for us?
Okay, Dasola Adelego.
Okay, Dasola Adelego, if you permit me to use that. So it's nice having you today on the afternoon edition.
It's wonderful being here.
Yeah, indeed. Looking at the situation of things in the country, there are so much globally, not just in Nigeria, in sub-Saharan Africa, in Africa, we've seen youth start coming out to actually say, yes, the future is not that of tomorrow. The future begins today.
Yes.
What's your take generally on the perspective on this International Youth Day?
Okay, so talking about this International Youth Day, we see that it's talking about the inclusion of youth in innovation. And my perspective, so to say, is this. When you let your youth participate more in nation building, and the industry aspect of the nation, the technological aspect and all, it grows because the youth have a longer lifespan. So it's more like it's going to extend more generations. They're going to build things that last. Imagine knowing that in the next 10 years, I'll not be available, I'll not be around on this earth anymore. I'll be making plans for things that would only last for that space. After all, when I'm gone, I'm gone. But for a youth that that they see a whole number of times, people are going to drag you, people are going to call your name, we know how social media works, that if you do not do well, they're going to come after you. And not only that, they're dragging so many people, your loved ones, with you. So you would want to do better as a youth. So that's what I'm saying, that when the youth are given more opportunities, they tend to create things that last, developments that last longer. And we can see all over the world, we have youth becoming presidents, we have them taking up key positions, and it has always been for the good of that nation.
But in Nigeria, actually, we have a state that have that good pronunciation for giving youth opportunity to serve in government. For instance, Kwara State, I've known the governor to always select youth among his commissioners, very young set of persons. What kind of position should they stand in terms of putting themselves out there as model in the society?
Okay, so I would say that when it comes to modeling, and so good you mentioned Kwara, their current commissioner. No, I scored in University of Ilorin. I scored in University of Ilorin, and the current commissioner for Minister for Environment, Nafisa Brigade, she happened to even be someone I know well. So saying that she became a commissioner, I know that they were going to do. I knew she was going to do well. I know she's a youth. We have participated in programs where we go out, we listen to people, and just like Yali, it's a community-based association, alumni members coming together from different parts of the world. Yes, because different parts of the world, so many of us are in different parts of the world now. So we're coming together, going into communities, and then asking them, what do you need? So we already have that information. We have the database. So when we are elected into positions as ministers, commissioners, we know what to do. We are not working on information that has existed before we were given birth to. We're working on the information that we have now. So that's why I'm saying the future is now. So we're working with informations and things that would work for now. What would make Nigeria progress now? What would benefit our community better, our nation as a whole? Because I believe that if I sweep my corner, you sweep your corner, we have a clean environment. We have a clean environment. So my take is, yes, bring the youth more into politics, into innovative ideas, let them lead. We are naturally born leaders, and they're not on talk of so many trainings we go through now that even help us, that help prepare us to even be better leaders. There are a lot of training, you see that there's an age gap for each to apply for distance. As an aged person, I wouldn't even call them aged, but the senior citizens, you can't participate any longer in this training. Some will not even accept you, but they accept the youth. So if you're putting out resources, partnering with some of these organizations to train your youth, why not give them the opportunity? Why not give them the platform to leverage on? So my take is, include the youth in all we are doing. Let there be inclusion, because we are change agents.
But now that you've mentioned the word inclusion in quote, let me take it from that particular aspect. We now have, so many people have also argued that, is it this kind of youth you want them to be in position? And then if you go out to make one or two interview, try to have some vox pop amongst youth, you discover that everybody thinks for themselves, not for the nation. People believe that we have so much in this country that every youth, everybody can steal, and then the country will still be in abundance. So when you have people with this kind of mentality, people have also argued that how then do you expect a better nation? Yourself, if you go around the street, you try to carry out a sample opinion of what people think about leadership in the country. Everybody thinks of what will benefit them as a person. Are you concerned about this? And what has YALI done over time? Because the essence of YALI is a youth body, a body that trains youth on leadership. What are your concerns as members of this particular forum?
Okay, thank you so very much for that question. It's a good one. Like you correctly said, it's a thing of concern when you speak to youth in the street, when you carry out random interviews and you tell them that, oh, when I get to the position, I would also take enough. But what YALI has been doing is, I would use the time of the election. Remember that last year we went out on training those on the streets. We went into the community, went into the street to let them understand that, yes, you need to vote. You need to, your vote counts, your vote matters. Then occasionally also we carry out trainings for community-based sensitization. That's what we call it. I could still remember that in Chika last year, around October last year, there was still a free medical outreach that was done in that community. And it was organized by youth. We were all there. So during this outreach, as we're checking their health, we're also sensitizing them. We're also training them, letting them know that everything does not have to be from your pocket. These are youth that just gathered their resources, not that they collected money or any grant from the government. So if we can do this, if we can be change agents, you can also be better. So we call it like going out, sensitizing them. That's the word, sensitizing them, sensitization, you know. And when you do this, you see that people become more aware. Because the thing is, they're like, if you don't want an African man to know something, put it in a book. If you don't want them to get to it, they will not open it. So yes, if the African man is not reading his books, why not go out to the African man and tell them? So many African men would listen to their radio. That's why we go to radio stations, we'll talk and let them know that, oh, this and this is what you need to do. This is what you need to know. Because the truth is, there will always be those that think that the nation is just for their own personal profit.
But do you think it is an issue of people not reading? Or is an issue of globalization that has also affected our culture?
You know, we have globalization that has affected us, which is why YALI is training us. They're also making us realize that, you see this training you are getting, you need to take it back to your people. It's actually an initiative of the former US President Barack Obama. You know, where they train leaders to go back to your community. So when you receive training, if you're able to bring it back home in a better way, imagine a child that goes to school, was taught, and then came back home and said, oh, mommy, this way you're doing this thing, you can do it in a better way. So you say that the globalization is also helping, not in the adverse way. So it still depends on how people are more aware, which is why we need to do more, let people know more. let them know better. Because I still believe that the last election was still where we had most youths in the history of Nigeria. Youth came out to vote. Youth stayed, as in they made sure that their votes were counted. And all of this was because of all the awareness that had gone into it. It's all the broadcast that went into it. So that's what we're saying, that the more you let people know that, oh, this thing that they've brought, this business they've brought is going to help us. It is not a thing that is going to cause or help the bad leaders that we think, that will help them get away. It is actually something that would expose them. People believe in it. So it depends on how well you're able to convince those in your community that this ideas I've learned, this training I've gone to, wherever I have gone, is actually for our benefit, on how you're able to better present it. Because there's a thing with the way you're trained. So after being trained, it's just like a teacher preparing a lesson plan. The lesson plan is how the students are going to understand, the way you break it down for them to understand. So bringing it down to their level. So I'll not really say globalization is what is causing this apathy in our youth. You know, I'm not going to call it that. It's globalization.
Yeah, but in this particular aspect, what I'm trying to fix here is we are now in the global space, where it is easier for you to see what is happening in the other side of the world. And it is also easier for you to consume content that you've not known before into your own kind of thinking, and then with that you also push it down to your immediate surrounding and the rest of it like that. Unlike the other way around, we know Africans to be reserved. We know our youth to have this moral strength compared to what you look at the Europeans and then the Western countries used to have. But now we're now having a blended society because of the space of technology. And that blended society seems to be of disadvantage to an extent. Look at the moral aspect of it all. That we seem to have lost our cultural values because we're adopting the culture of other people that we feel that they are ahead of us.
Yes, I get the part of our cultural values that we are gradually losing. When it comes to this, there's something I say. There's this saying of train up your child on the way he should go, and then when he grows, he won't depart from it. I still think when it comes to this, our cultural values, it starts from the home. Yeah. It starts from the home, not even from the school. When you have rules, when you have regulations, it's not wrong for you to give your child a phone. Because it is actually the children you're raising, the teenagers that are becoming the youths. So it always starts from while they are younger, which is why we really do not focus only on the youth. So we also make sure that we carry the children along, because we believe that once you prepare their mind and they get it right on time, you're going to have little problems with them when they become youths, when they grow up to become youths. So basically this is it. From our home, I would advise, or I would suggest to parents that you should have rules. And thank God there is YouTube Kids now. It helps you limit what your children listen to or watch online. Then have ground rules. We are Nigerians. We are Nigerians. There are some things that are our personal value. So in as much as we are not willing to trade it just because we don't want our child to throw up a tantrum, or we believe in giving our teenager this sense of freedom that I believe that they are not yet ripe enough for. It's just like when you expose a child to what you're supposed to, they're not prepared. It's just like when you're taking a child from SS1 to go do a WAEC, to go write the senior WAEC, and then we're rushing them into the university. You see a 16-year-old, don't even say a 14-year-old child in the university. And before they're 20, they are done. So I'm even so glad that JAMB had put a benchmark on it. And really, I wouldn't say that those that finish their school on time or the smart students. We have a culture. We are known for something. How about we use that time to train our children? Let them get to know our culture and our values better, rather than pushing them to quickly go and gain all this global knowledge. Because the way an African child would react in some instances, in some environments when placed, is different from the way an European child that has been prepared from while they were young would take those situations, react to those situations. So you still understand that we still have our cultural values. We still have our differences from the European countries.
Okay.
So it is still the work of me, you, every one of us out there. We believe in Africa that it is not the mother that raises a child alone, and a tree does not make a forest. So when seeing someone doing something wrong, maybe your neighbor's child or a teenager around you, or maybe your niece or your nephew, it is also your duty to correct them in love.
What do you think are not the major challenges? Are not the major challenges of the youth, and you think the youth still prioritize?
Okay. Things that are not their major
challenge, and they still prioritize, and in one way or the other, it affects their rate of growth into developing a better community for the nation.
Okay, I would say one thing that it's not really a major challenge, but we prioritize is how there's a how do I put it? It is our way of clamoring for change. There is a way we go about it that I believe sometimes we're not using the right approach. And when you prioritize what you shouldn't prioritize, you get distracted. You get distracted from and your message is being sent in the wrong way. When we are clamoring for change and then we say that we want to go and start destroying government properties, prioritizing that, okay, let's go and destroy that. We feel that they're going to feel the heat. It's not. At the end of the day, it backfires and then it becomes a problem. So when we're trying to change, we're not changing it per se, but rather we're creating more problems. Imagine the peaceful protests that turned to something else that was hijacked in some other states in the country. It was a sad event because some people lost their lives. How about we prioritize negotiation and better dialogue? I don't believe that those representing us in the House of Reps or in the National Assembly, they're not people we could reach. We voted them there. It's our vote that put them there. You don't have to see their car driving by and then throwing a stone at it. That's not the right way. But you see that youth are beginning to prioritize violence. Though in minorities, though I will not say the major part of the youth, because I still believe that we still have good youth in Nigeria. They're beginning to prioritize violence over dialogue.
But in this particular situation, what method, you've mentioned dialogue, which is one of the methods. What effective method do you think, because the youth that we have now seem to have assumed that issue of
yeah.
You understand, and the patience, or the issue of patience is no longer there. They just want to have that climax at the point, at that particular instant. When they need it, you give it to them. So what method do you think the leadership of the country, be it that of the federal, be it that of the state, be it that of the local government, will have to also take cognizance of in managing issues like this? Because if you look at what happened during the EndSARS, it started abruptly. That of the End Bad Governance protest, it was actually planned, and then yes, it faded away with time. But then we also saw the result of EndSARS, which resulted into so many lives lost, and seeing buildings of government destroyed. At the end of the day, you still budget for something like that. You see what happened in some of the states during the End Bad Governance. So how do you think the leadership of the country will have to address issues before they become worse?
Thank you for this question. I think one thing that the government has not been using, a method that is making the youth agitated that they're not using, I feel if the youth, it's just, that's, I know the president has been doing empowerment, a lot of it, but are this empowerment tailored to the needs of the youth? There is the point where we say that there is a collaborative effort. That is where you're asking the youth to come out. What do you want exactly? How about you do this, then we do this. If I know that I am a part in building this, I won't want to destroy it. And I know that this that is being done, it is for my own best interest. And my opinions are sorted. I could remember when the subsidy was removed. I'm not sure that a proper census was taken or how it would affect the youth. That wasn't done, it was just removed. And then we see NLC clamoring for the minimum wage to be increased, and it took months. For the subsidy was removed in a day, something that affected the youth. So how about the government begins to give the youth a say? Let them tell you what they want and what they don't want, and then you prioritize it. Let it be a youth-based, the approach should be a youth-centered approach. A youth-centered approach, but in a way that it actually benefits the youth way more than...
Because they are the majority, so the bulk should go to them.
So when the priority shifts, when even in our budget and every other thing, we see that the priority is the youth, the education, the healthcare, and things that would make the youth flourish. And the truth is, when you empower your youth, when they are standing well, the nation would grow. It will. So I would say that the government should begin to use a youth-centered approach.
But in this particular case that we've witnessed within the span of 5 years, we've witnessed rise in the kind of protests that we have in the country, with these key ones, that's the NSAS and then the End Bad Governance protest. Do you think the government will now have to actually take in very significant step in addressing some of these issues that you've raised? Do you think they've started doing that?
Or to some extent, I would say that a year is still too short for us to judge the present government.
Okay.
But from what I have seen him doing, I call it, okay, I think the president himself to say baby steps.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's actually called baby steps. In as much as you are moving, you're doing something, you're not stagnant. I believe that will get there. So I would also want to tell the youth to also allow the government, just hope and believe in them. I don't want to use the word hope, so I'm not going to sound partisan, you know, that let's just trust them, have faith in them, because I see the current government already making efforts. Though yes, it might look like the effort is still very small, but it is drops of water that become an ocean. So in as much as you're not going out damaging some of the things that's been done, and we're just watching, though I know that it is not so easy out there, especially now for youths. But in as much, I believe that Nigeria, we are strong, stronger than we think.
But don't you think that is where some people actually take advantage, most especially some of our leaders? They believe that no matter the suffering, no matter the challenges these people go through, they'll be able to absorb it. And don't you think they are taking advantage of that situation? You've named in quotes that word strong.
Yes, the Nigerians are strong. Yes, I would say that sometimes it looks as though it's been taken advantage of. But now that they know that their youths are willing and are ready to always go out into the streets when they notice they're being taken advantage of, I believe that that would also curtail them a bit. Now they know that, yes, imagine the way the NSAS protest started. And then, before we know it resulted, it was just like ripple effect, every state. I'm sure that the nation was like, that's the first time which are going to come out en masse. And so the government are beginning to see the youth in a different light. They kept saying we're going to do end bad governance protest, and they came out.
Okay, thank you so much, Dasola. We'll be going on a very short break to discuss more, because you've raised critical issues here, and you also put in a picture of what it should be and what the government needs to do in order to get the support. Their policies should be youth-oriented. You have to carry the youth along in making a better policy statement and also implementation of the plans. And these are very, very huge ones. But then definitely we have so much. We have so much to discuss. And we hope that we'll be having Udoaka join us just after the break. So we'll go on this break. And when we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
Nigeria as a free state in 20th century Africa is the need to revive the stature of man in Africa and restore the dignity of man in the world. Nigerians believe passionately in the fundamental human rights. We regard all races of the human family as equal. Under no circumstance shall we accept the idea that the black race is inferior to any other race. I appeal to all our leaders, far and near, to forget the wounds which were inflicted in cause of our internecine altercations. The love of our country should outweigh the love of our petty selves. The enjoyment of individual freedom under the law should mean more to us than our self-centered party programs and manifestos. Common dangers and common enemies alert us on the need for common security. Come and join Abubakar with me, Sardauna, Awolowo, Akitola, Ofarebe, Okpara, Ikoku, Aminu Kano, Ibrahim Imam, and Saka. Let us bind the nation's wound and let us heal the breaches of the past, so that in forging our nation, there shall emerge on this continent a hate-free, fear-free, and greed-free people who shall be in the vanguard of a world task force whose assignment is not only to revive the stature of man in Africa, but to restore the dignity of man in the world.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God.
Welcome back from that short break. And just before the break, I told you O.M. Edoika, who is also a member of the Yali RLC, will be joining us also, but he will call in via phone call in order for us to have his own perspective of what he thinks the government will need to do to strengthen the ties between leadership and also the youthful positions that we have in the country. But then, before then, we're also having still Dasola in the building discussing issues on youth. But while we are expecting OM to call in, I just want you to look at this particular scenario. Okay. Do you think the youth have the wealth of experience or wealth of knowledge when it comes to how government works? Yeah.
The thing is, I think the government underestimates the youth, really.
Okay.
Because imagine the youth that has gone for trainings, read a lot of history, and we've not only experienced the government in Nigeria, we've been following the governance in other countries.
Okay, so before you climax on that, let me quickly pick this from Uwem. Hello, good afternoon, Uwem.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah, please, if you can just increase your voice. And we are still on this issue of the International Youth Day. And you know the way things are in the country already. You've seen so many protests within the span of 4 or 5 years. And what are your take, most especially during these particular days, for Nigerian youth?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ado. My take, practically, is that Nigerian youth, they've been trying their best to make sure the government listens to them. You know, we usually try to promote dialogue. We don't want this protest per se. But in as much as the government has tried in all possible ways, the youth must be told how much the government has listened to them. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Okay. Before you complete that line, just give me some a few minutes. If you can just call us back. Let me quickly get this thought completed from Dasola. Just a few minutes, please. Okay, please, you can go ahead.
Okay, so like I was saying, when it comes to underestimating the youth, you don't believe, you can't even imagine the capacity a youth that is intentional about the governance of his country, the length we can go in learning and studying. And then for the youth that have gone through a lot of trainings, of course, this is the early leadership training. A lot has been taught in us. We believe that we're trained to be better leaders, and we believe that we are. And then following the leadership and governance of Nigeria is something we are familiar with. It's something we've been seeing. It's something that is well spoken about everywhere in the world. And then we also follow other countries, their leaders. We look at it, we compare. So really, we have the wealth of knowledge when it comes to governance in Nigeria. It's something we can handle.
Because I remember when they were planning for this last protest.
Okay.
Unlike in the past, well, for me, I would say probably maybe it was not well planned, or probably the government also planned better than those that were actually planning with respect to this particular protest. There are so many youth. The reason why I ask that question is because we've seen so many situations whereby youth groups are called.
Okay.
So many people will say it is the official youth group, the ones that are registered.
Okay.
But the ones that carry out this or perpetrate this act of violence are actually the uninformed and unregistered youth group. And that is where the fear lies. because we have a detached society where you see very little people are known formally or officially, while the majority are kept in abeyance. They are not even aware of what the government is doing. How will they even approach the government? And when you ask people that are protesting, who are your leaders, they will go ahead and tell you, we are I'm the leader. This one say, then you cannot have communities of leaders protesting. There must be somebody leading the group. And if you don't have aid in terms of how you manage issues like protest and the rest of it, how do you see the possibility of you even solving your own problem?
Okay, then this is what I noticed when it comes to other kind of issues that you raised, where we have my own leader and have or we are our own leaders. You see, when it comes to information dissemination in Nigeria, I believe that we're not doing too well on that yet.
Okay.
We are not, because it's possible for you to just wake up and hear that, oh, so thing happened here. Like when did this meeting? When was the study carried out? You know, the means of communicating to most Nigerians, it's unique for each state, different states. I believe that if the government wants to do something, there's some radio stations you can go to in Nigeria that you know that average like 70% of Nigerians, whether in a taxi or in their house, there are radio programs that we know they follow. There is the internet. And then, you know, when it comes to internet, then there's a particular youth you're trying to reach out to. Imagine the youth that has been struggling, maybe is a plumber or is a mechanic. So many of those people, you cannot say that you want to reach out to them and then you put the information on the internet. How do you want them to get it? You know that you have to go through several channels. You need to put out some in the media. So I feel like the government is underutilizing the media, the whole arms of the media, when it comes to information dissemination. So that's why you see that at the end of the day, someone who is just hungry, tired, just heard somewhere that, oh, there's a protest, and then he wants to join because he believes we want to end, we're saying no to bad governance.
Okay, let me quickly get this from Ujoka. So, hello, good afternoon. Yes, it's nice. I'm sorry I had to cut you up because I need to get a climax thought about what my other guest here in the studio is saying. So what are your take generally based on the last question I asked you?
Yes, my it's very simple. If you look at the topic of this year's International Youth Day, it's talking about peaceful progress. So every step the Nigerian youth is taking is not actually for rancor or for chaos. Every step the Nigerian youth is taking is to make sure we come together and achieve a progressive country. And in as much as we have been taking these steps through diverse means, entrepreneurially, look at their ICT, look at their ways of living. See, the Nigerian youth is one of the best youth that you can actually do stuff with. You know, we are gifted. We are multi-talented. So if you look at the protest is just an avenue for the government to really listen to these guys. See, these guys are trying to present something. Give them these people for dialogue, and not just giving them people for dialogue, but actually attend to them. If the government can put themselves in the shoes of the Nigerian youth, 50% of the challenges would have been reduced. That's my take. Because it's as if when we vote them in, after a while we don't hear from them, we'll just be on the other side of the divide. It's not supposed to be like that. If the government of the day can be empathetic, put themselves in the shoes of Nigerian youth, and feel what they are trying to feel too, 50% of the challenges would have been taken care of. That's my take.
Okay, thank you so much, for adding your voice to this particular conversation. And definitely, let me allow Dasola to give us a rounding thought on all these. Looking at the situation now, is there still hope for the youth in today and in the future? Let me not say in future, today and the future. Yeah.
Yes, very good. I'll say yes, there is hope. Hope in today and the future. And just like Mr. Ohuem said, clicks to progress. When we say clicks, it's just like you're clicking on something. Like I said, baby steps. Another was saying baby steps. So in as much as the government is taking baby steps, and the youth are also taking baby steps towards a better Nigeria, a better place for us, also towards a better future, I believe that things are definitely going to get better, even sooner than we expect. Sooner than we expect. So I would say that yes, as a youth out there, continue to believe in yourself. Start with yourself. Really, if you keep on developing yourself, if you keep on getting more skills, you know, you're getting more knowledge, you're definitely putting yourself in for better opportunities.
Advantage position, yeah.
Exactly, in an advantage position, you know. And there's a saying that let opportunity meet you prepared. There will always be opportunity that comes knocking at every point in time. But if you're not prepared, there's no way you'll be able to take advantage of the opportunity. And that is why in Yali RLC we keep saying it, we keep training people, because we believe that the opportunity can come from anywhere at any time. You might not even expect it. So in as much as the government is doing their part, and you as the youth, instead of being angry, you're doing your part also. Before you know it, we have a better future.
The sky indeed is our limit. But then definitely, that's what I so much appreciate you for coming on the program today. It's a wonderful moment having you.
Thank you.
Young African Leadership Initiative. Having somebody from there actually is not always easy, but then you guys have the experience. You've learned so much. You've seen how other climax they carry out their activities. Now you are bringing it back home, and we really appreciate the role you play in our community. I know Yali is all about community development, but then this is how far we can go today on the afternoon edition. Discuss with Dasola is indeed a very good one, and we hope and pray that yes, we have youth that are more informed about our activities, youth that are more informed about government activities, and youth that also have various ways of solving problem. It's not just through violence. Violence can never give us the best. Let us learn from what happened in Sudan. Let us learn from what happened in Kenya. There are better ways we can solve societal problems. My name is Isanu. Have a wonderful day and stay blessed.